All of a sudden, 1 month, my water bill came in about 5 times what it had been.
Tenants with cameras, not a fan. Not a fan at all. If you're walking through an investment property, you're thinking about buying it, and the tenants have a camera set up, especially if they have like a monitor inside, do not renew that tenant.
Nothing like disease trees. I mean, paying to have paying, whatever, $6,000 to have a tree removed just is a kick in the, what.
This is the Twin Cities Real Estate Investing Show. Real stories, real success in Twin Cities real estate. Join your hosts, Adam Tafel and Tim Swierczek, as they dive into the world of Twin Cities real estate investing.
What's up, Tim?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you, my guy?
Awesome. Yeah, it's I like the fall weather coming in, and just things. It's just the change of seasons can be good, and I think it's treating me well. It's really busy right now.
Yeah, it's nice to grab some wardrobe items that you haven't seen in a season, right? Mm-hmm. Isn't it nice putting on that long sleeve shirt for the first time? Mm-hmm. Like going outside? I'm going to do some layering today. Anyways, we have Tyler Nash as our guest. Round 2 with Tyler Nash. Why did we pick Tyler to bring him back today, Tim?
Well, because today it's not really about Tyler. It's about all the things he's went through, right? So it's not like often we have someone and we talk about their story and all this. This is just landlord things he's come up with. And he has some really interesting, we're going to call them horror stories, or what do we officially call it? But some really interesting, stories that have happened, and we can talk about like how to solve them or how he solved them. And so this is like a nuts and bolts issue.
Yeah, Tyler bought one property that gave him more issues than he had expected. And so this is a fun episode to listen to because, we're just kind of convalescing about, bad things that happen to us as landlords. Also, it's a cautionary tale because there are things that he will do in the future to prevent these bad things that have happened to him.
Sure,
and
absolutely.
I think that's probably the most valuable thing about the episode. And yeah, he's just, cool guy to hang out with and talk to, who's got a lot of knowledge and experience. So here's Tyler. Welcome to the Twin Cities Real Estate Investing Show, brought to you by Shook. Shook is the all-in-one platform to help you manage your rentals, built for real estate investors just like us. Shook has all-in-one communication, so forget juggling email, text, phone calls. If you're feeling like you're spread all over the place, download Shook to put everything in one place and simplify your life. At just $5 per unit per month, it's worth checking out shookrentals.com or booking a live demo in the show notes. Now, on to the main episode. Tyler's here.
Yep.
And who are you, Tyler?
Tyler, landlord in the Minneapolis, Twin Cities area from Forest Lake. Been working with Tim and Adam for about 5 years now, and second podcast appearance here. So happy to continue my story and just bounce some landlord stories off you guys. So,
also licensed real estate agent.
Yeah, newly licensed as of January. If you know anyone that needs to buy or sell a home, let me know.
There you go. Well, should we kick it off? Most of these stories come from one particular building, correct? Do you want to give the people the backstory on the deal, why you're into it, and all that? Yeah. How did it originate?
So last February of 24, partner and I bought a pretty dilapidated building in South Minneapolis, an 11-unit multifamily building. And there was just a host of issues that came with it that lead to all these stories that have happened along the way. So it was a total renovation job that we were coming into. And, it's almost like a house flip. I think that anyone that has done that has run into unforeseen issues. I think this is, that times many units times a big building. And there's just stories upon stories of things that happened to us, that things we encountered, things that were uncovered along the way that they're tough when they happen, and they're stressful and frustrating, but then you look back at them and they make for great stories, great learnings. And we're going to tell you some of them today.
Yeah. A little bit about the building, if you don't mind. Where is it located? How big is it? What did you pay for it? All that kind of stuff. So
it's right on Nicollet. It's technically Minneapolis, but it's literally the last building before you get into Richfield on Nicollet. So 62, the overpass of 62 is right next to the building. So it's an 11-unit.
Does it say you could live here on the building?
No, yeah.
You see those on 62, right?
Yep.
If you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Yeah. Those signs.
So it's an 11-unit. It was all 2-bedroom, 1-bath units. We converted one to a 3-bedroom along the way. 1960s building, just a brick square, flat rubber roof on it. So pretty typical 60s multifamily building. It was owned by an old couple that had died and passed it on to their children being in their 60s, kind of just mom and pop managed along the way. You could call it mismanaged. There was actually only 4 units that were habitable when we bought it. The other 7 were completely destroyed because someone attempted to do a DIY remodel and never got anywhere.
And if I can step in, it's for people who don't know this, if you come across an 11-unit building where only 4 are occupied, you're not getting a loan on that. You're getting a hard money loan, but you're not getting anything that you currently resemble as a loan, right? It's going to be whatever.
Yep.
You might get lower than 10% because it's so many units, but it's not a cheap loan. It's a hard money short-term loan, right?
So this building was actually listed on the MLS. It was on there for a long time. I think it was at like 125 or 13, and it had fallen out of contract like 4 times, probably due to that reason.
Everyone thought they could get a rate in the 7s. Yeah.
And so we came in and we got it for $1,075,000 using hard money. So that was our purchase price. We did a seller carryback of the 75, so we went and got hard money for $1 million plus the renovation. So we got hard money for 1.3. So we put 300 into it. And then we got started on the renovation. So we actually, cool thing with that deal is we came to the closing table with no money and came out with our first construction draw because of the appraisal value of after repair. So that's the benefit of hard money, is they're willing to look at that, what your after repair value is. Some of them are willing to loan upon that, and that's what we were able to get. So we came out with no money at closing and our first construction draw to get started.
And do you do anything, and I want to hear Tim's perspective, do you look ahead towards a refinance as well? Is that something to be doing at this time with this sort of deal?
So not that early, because the building's going to have to start performing before anyone's going to look at a refinance. So,
but you want to pencil it out at least.
I
That's
think,
what I'm saying.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Exactly right. I think you need to pencil it out. Obviously, interest rates actually went down over the time period, but they went up for most of the time period.
Yeah.
And then they come back down. So I don't know where they are in relation to when you purchase. But yeah, there's a lot of unknowns. And Tyler's right. Now, if you have an existing relationship with the bank, you might be able to get them to do something pretty quickly after stabilization. And stabilization basically means more or less fully rented. Right?
Yeah.
They might allow you in a 11-unit building, they might allow you 1 unit unrented, right? Because that would be at almost 10% vacancy. Right? Pretty close.
Yep.
But in most cases, they're going to want at least 10 of the units rented for 6 months or longer in order to get traditional finance.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Fannie Mae's a year, by the way, not 6 months.
Okay.
If you want to get a Fannie Mae loan on it.
Yeah. So coming into it, we ran the numbers as if it was, what does this look like fully stabilized? What does it look like right now? What, can we hold it? Can we exit? So we had multiple strategies coming into it before we really purchased it, which I would highly recommend. Don't rely on just one option and hope it works. Have multiple strategies just in case things don't work out the way you thought they would. So
yeah. Okay, so I remember us having a conversation over lunch where you talked about like some regrets from early on. Like you had 4 people in it. Did you keep them in it? Did you kick them out? And how would you do that this time?
Yeah. So we kept the 4 in there for a few months. So we wanted that income coming in. It was like $4,500 a month in income.
And what's your hard money loan?
Our hard
payment?
money loan
Or
is
did they hold?
$12,800 a month.
And did they make you pay it, or did they hold that?
Yes, we paid it every month.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So some will allow you to accumulate and pay later. We were paying it monthly.
On $1 million loan, they probably have a different attitude versus on a $400,000 loan. Yeah.
So we wanted to keep those tenants in there. So we kept them in there, all 4. They did start to leave as we started to do work, though. And these were pretty undesirable tenants for the most part anyway, so we weren't looking to keep them long-term necessarily. We came in, introduced ourselves on day one, said, we're the new owners. Here's what we're going to do, fully transparent with the property. And we did give them the chance to say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to remodel these units. Here's what we think we're going to rent them for. We'll give you the option to stay. If you would like to stay in these new units at these new rate, we'll allow you to reapply, and we'll look at you to see if you could apply. And if you want to stay, you can stay. So we actually did have one that did that, and he's still with us today, but the other 3 ended up leaving. One couldn't pay, one kind of disappeared. One stopped paying along the way, so we had to give him the out. So it didn't go quite as smoothly as we had hoped.
When you say they disappeared, did they abandon the unit?
No, they basically just said, I'm going to be moving out in 2 weeks. See you later. So, the notice period isn't there. There's not much you can do. Like, we need to get into that unit anyway. And this is the lady, we'll get into this story, that abandoned her kid in the building.
Oh my gosh. You're kidding me.
No,
I didn't hear that.
That's one of my stories.
I didn't read that one.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I've read most of your stories, but I don't know that one.
Yeah. So, yeah, tons of things that happened along the way. But
weren't they on different floors? So I'm remembering a little bit more of it now,
Yep.
right? This is a 2-story, right? Three-story. Okay,
Yep.
sorry. Okay. Talk to us about where they were at in the building, because I think, it might not seem like it matters, but it did, right?
Yeah. So we had one on the lower level, 2 on the second level, and 1 on the third level. So,
Which means you're interrupting all of your tenants
Right.
anytime you do work, right?
So one of the learnings that we had, or that I have now, is really how you phase a project like this, how you can go into it. Ideally, you could maybe knock it out by floors and start renting along the way. Because of where we had tenants and things like that, we were kind of having to hit random units around the building, and the building just never was in a real show position where you could bring people in and say, look at this nice place to live with these. We had nice units, but the common spaces were torn up and dirty, and there was things going on all over the place. We had to pretty much wait until we were done with the whole building to start leasing, and that actually was a challenge for us.
And it costs you a lot of money.
Exactly. Yep.
Because if you lease, so what do you got? Like maybe 4 or 5 units on the top floor, something like that. 4 probably.
4, and 3 on the bottom.
Yeah. So you could have potentially, if you create a buffer, potentially, you can start on the top floor, get that all done,
Yep.
have all the common elements all the way up to that top floor completely done,
Yep.
right? And then move down floors
Exactly.
and just move people, right? And say,
Yep.
hey, I know you're on the top floor. If you want to stay, you're going to have to move to the basement maybe, because you wouldn't want to, right? I mean,
Yeah.
move them to the basement, but guess what? We'll give you $75 off a month.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
And get them to move down, and then you've got that top floor totally free, and you don't have to move them from the second floor the next time, right?
Yep.
You got 2 people there or whatever, right? And
Yep. And it could have worked that way because there's a front entrance and a back entrance. There's a front stairway and a back stairway. You could have completely segregated one off, and they would have had full access, keep them out of construction. You could have done it that way.
Sure.
Looking back at it, that would have been great, but it just didn't
Yeah,
work out
and
that
believe
way.
me, I'm not criticizing.
Yeah.
I'm actually, this is just so if someone else takes on a project like this, they're
Yep.
thinking of it going in,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, it would have made construction super easy too. So you got 4 units. They're all the same, right? All the units are laid out the same. They're just mirrored on each side of the building. So you could have, if you had an entire floor ready for your crews to come in, you could do all the painting, all the flooring, all the kitchen cabinets, all at the same time. But now we're having to jump around to floors, and they're at different phases and different stages. It made it take longer ultimately, which then costs money. So
Yeah.
And so just to be really clear, if you were going to get in a time machine and do this again, will you just lay out exactly what you would do different managing these tenants? And
Yeah.
I know Tim already kind of alluded to that.
Yeah,
but
that's basically what I would do in a perfect state, is give ourselves the ability to work in the areas we want to work and move the tenants if they need to leave to do that, and we lose a tenant and lose that income. That's fine. We're gonna save that money in the long run with the savings in the hard money loan. So I would do exactly that. Start at the top floor, get them all cleared out, do all 4 units at the same time, get that floor looking great. Common spaces up to
Common
the,
spaces first, right?
Yep.
Like before you finish the first unit, the common space have to be done, because then you can show it properly, rent it, right? That
Yeah.
kind of thing?
Yep. Yep. And so I'd have one half of the building common spaces done, looking nice, so we could show them, rent them, hopefully get some tenants in there, get some income. Then start hitting the second floor, do the same thing, hit the bottom floor, do the same thing.
Does this building have laundry?
It does. Yep.
Okay. So, and that's in the basement, I assume, right?
yeah.
That's why you don't have 4 units in the basement.
Right. Yep. One of
them's
the
laundry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so you could have kept that open, obviously, for everyone as well.
Yep. Yep. So it could have worked out, but that's, again, just a learning, something you don't know going into it.
It
And
did
now
work out. It just wasn't, you just didn't do it in a deal, but now you know.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
So it ended up taking us, and the guy said the end result of that is it took us longer to do the remodel, which pushed us into winter to start leasing. And so now leasing in the winter is very slow. It's much more difficult than leasing in June or May or July. So then leasing took longer. So these things all just add cost as you're paying almost a $13,000 interest payment every single month until you can get this place stabilized and refinance out of it. So that was one of the biggest learnings I had coming out of this that I would do differently next time for sure.
Give yourself a buffer. Keep in mind the seasonal black and white changes of Minnesota leasing.
Yep. We anticipated we were going to start leasing in July, and we got into September, and then we started to be able to lease because of the status of the building. So,
well, even March can be a decent leasing month.
Yeah.
From my experience, April is certainly fine. So just shoot for March or April, and then if you get pushed back, at least you're looking at May or June.
Yeah. Surprisingly, it was like really dead from like October to the beginning of December. It was scary. Like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We're not getting anything. And then
It's not that surprising.
December, we landed like 4 or 5 leases.
Really?
Yeah.
That's actually surprising to me.
Yeah. And then January, we got a couple more, and it was kind of a relief. So we started, most of our leases started in the winter, actually, December, January.
But you didn't do 12 months, did you?
Nope. I staggered them. So I did some of them as 6-month fixed and then rolling to months and things like that. So I could renew them in the summer or fall. So
cool. Well, should we get into some nightmare stories?
Yeah. So one of the first things that happened, like 2 weeks after we bought the building, one of the tenants, the guy that's still with us today, he's awesome. I'm thankful we have him still because he was like a caretaker along the way, kept an eye on the building, all that stuff. But he was in the top floor, and like 2 weeks after, so this was March, we got a wicked snowstorm, wet, and his roof started leaking like it didn't even have a roof on it. It was leaking all over the place, and we hadn't touched the roof. We hadn't even been up there. So just unlucky circumstance that this guy had leaks in his bedrooms and in his kitchen, in his laundry room. It started pouring rain in his apartment. And thankfully, he's just such a chill guy. He was actually homeless. I learned his story later, but he had come from being homeless into this building, had been in the building for a couple of years. And so he was totally like, as long as I got a roof over my head and a place to sleep, like I'm fine. Thankfully, because he could have made it very difficult on us, right? So, ended up getting the roof fixed. We had to hire someone to come shovel off the entire roof. Get a roofer up there in the winter. That's tough. Fix the leaks. Ended up buying him a new mattress and things like that because it was soaked. He had to throw it away and helping him out. But he was totally cool along the way. But that was like, I got that call at like 3 o'clock in the morning, saw it in the morning, like, hey, I'm not sure what to do. My roof's leaking all over the place. I got buckets. And I'm like, oh man, this is a great start.
What did that end up costing you in total?
It was like a $2,000 roofing bill at the end of the day, plus the labor to shovel it off. Luckily, my partner was a contractor, so he had some guys that could help us out with that. It was, if I had to go hire it out, it would have been a little bit more expensive than that, but it was like a $2,000 or $3,000 deal at the end of the day. So it wasn't make or break the bank type of thing, but it was still just right off the bat a cost that we hadn't budgeted for that we're going to spend.
And was that all that's needed, or was it like the roof was bad and you needed to end up doing the whole roof, or was that just a fluke?
It was just a fluke. Some patch jobs that had gone bad from the past. After going in and evaluating things, you could see where these leaks had already happened in the past too. The ceilings had been repaired, and you could see exactly where it had happened. So it was just a recurring leak that's been kind of Band-Aided in the past.
You guys did it right, I hope?
Yeah, it hasn't leaked since. So yeah.
We think you did it right?
Yeah, exactly.
With a building like this, what's your general monthly budget for what's going into the repair and CapEx fund in a month?
Well, so now after remodel, we're actually using 3% of gross rents. So it's like $6,000 or $7,000, which is high still. We're not spending that. In any way.
You're putting 6,000 or 7,000, not a month.
Yeah, he's talking per year, right?
You're talking per year.
Correct. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. Sorry, I didn't realize you said per month. Yeah, per year. So
okay.
It's $500 a month or something is what we're budgeting. Yep.
Sure.
And
which is a little bit more than $50 a unit. When we bought 200 unit buildings, we were putting in $25 a month per unit
for repairs
in a 200 unit building or 200 unit. I'm sorry, I never owned one building that was 200, but we had 200 in one city.
Sure.
So it was 20. Yeah. And it all depends on, here's the thing. When you're remodeling a whole building and you're fixing everything, that budget should end up being low.
Right.
But to start, it might be really high.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. In the beginning, it was way higher than that. Just maintaining this old building. But yeah, at this point, that's just what we have budgeted. We're not spending quite that because everything's brand new.
Sure.
But and again, if you're using a percentage off of gross rents, it really matters what your gross rent is. If you have 2 units and your gross rent is low, you might have a higher percentage of maintenance. If you have a lot of units that are remodeled, you can use a much lower percentage. So I think in this case, using a dollar value is probably a better approach than a percentage.
Totally agree with you, especially since we're talking in the Twin Cities. This isn't a show about outstate Minnesota, but if you are in a small town, that percentage needs to be a lot higher because your rents are lower, but your cost to buy the toilet's the same. You know, and so you just got to kind of keep that in mind that percentage is a bad way to do it. It's just a way to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. So so you have this leak.
Anything you would have done differently? Yeah.
In that case, I don't know what we could have done differently. It was sprung upon us. We reacted pretty quickly. I think what I did do well was the communication piece of it, and that's a theme I will push across anything that happens is the communication. As a property manager or as a landlord, communication to your tenants to let them know what's going on will either tremendously help your issues or tremendously hurt your issues and make them so much worse if your communication is bad. So I think right away we communicated with him as exactly what we were doing, when we were doing it. We did it, and he was totally fine with it. He understood. So it all worked out pretty well. But I think looking back, if we would have just been like, sorry, we're going to remodel this unit anyway, tough luck, like that would have been a bad approach, right? So
yeah. Well, not to mention water is one of the biggest problems for a property owner.
Yeah.
If you have a water problem, you have to solve it immediately. You have to treat it like heat out in the winter, right?
Yeah.
It has to be immediate.
Yep.
One thing I like that you said, because I've seen some stuff online of people asking, should I do this or whatever, but like if something that you do damages something from the tenant, you need to really consider replacing it or compensating them because it's really not their fault that this leak happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's one thing if a fire burns a whole building down and they lose everything, you don't have to replace everything. But my gosh, if something that, you own a roof and it causes their mattress to go bad, you shouldn't be like, tough luck, go buy a $600 mattress now or more, right? Yeah. Where this has come up for us many times, and this is where it'll come up for most landlords, is if you have a problem in the freezer or your refrigerator goes out, we always buy a gift card.
Sure.
Always buy a gift card for them to buy new groceries. I don't even know. Chance with the cost of groceries, our gift card probably doesn't cover it anymore because we've been doing 100 for years. Yeah. Maybe the last time we might have did 150. I'd have to ask Nicole, but it's just that goes so far to have them not complain and to treat you good for the rest of the lease. It's like, we're really sorry this happened. Here's a $150 gift card to Cup or whatever it might be, right? Or here's your new mattress. By the way, do you like soft or firm, right? Like, I'm going to have it delivered, right? Don't make them go drive and pick it up. They can pick it out, but like do those little things, goes a long way.
So I think at the end of the day, I like to approach this as this is really a people business as a property manager or as a landlord. So you're delivering customer service, you're delivering a product which happens to be their place to live. So you don't necessarily have to buy them a new mattress or have to buy them food for their refrigerator that went bad, but put yourself in their shoes. What are you going to want from someone when that happens to keep that relationship good? Because that $150 gift card for new food is going to be more beneficial than that headache now that they're bitter at you for having not helped them out at all, right?
$12.50 a month during their lease. That is what you gave them, right?
So especially good tenants, I will do just about anything to help them out in these cases to keep them around, because I know turnovers and just bad tenants, how much that costs you in peace of mind and money, that it's just not worth it to try and pinch pennies in the short term.
And I mean, it's kind of like you said, what would they expect? It's like doing what's right. It's like, let's talk about the golden rule, right? Do unto others, right? I mean, I think that's really what we're talking about here is like, this is what's right. And that's what you should do regardless of what the law says, and it goes a long way towards keeping people happy, having them stay, all that kind of stuff.
I was going to ask, Tim, you might know this. Do we know what the law is? Like, I told that funny story about my tenant who had the beeping smoke detector the other week. And so she got herself a hotel room and then took the hotel receipt off of her rent. And I didn't say anything because she's like a, high class lady in a high class unit. Right. But what am I actually legally obligated to do as a landlord? I have to provide just reasonable accommodation, or do you know how the law is written?
On those specific issues, I don't know. I could answer a little differently that, if someone was not able to, if their place was not usable, right? And so here's the thing. Is a smoking detector not usable? I would answer no, because I think it can be unplugged, right? So I'd say immediately that in this case, my hunch is you're not liable for anything.
Let's
But
use
I don't know that for
Tyler's.
sure, but that's my hunch, right?
Let's use Tyler's example.
Okay, Tyler's example.
Pouring water.
I would say no. I don't think he has, because there was the buckets and everything else. I think heat out for anything more than a night is probably you're looking at it. And even still, like if you can't get them heaters. So by the way, we have space heaters on demand, right? Because heat outs do happen, and everyone should own a space heater because you can't go buy it at 10 o'clock at night. And those are, we say that you'll never get the 2 a.m. call for like a broken toilet, but you will absolutely get a 10 p.m. call. My heat doesn't work. And unfortunately, we've driven multiple heaters out at 10 p.m. to people's houses, right, to keep them going, right? But if you can't provide heat for a whole night, yeah, I think you owe them a hotel room. I believe legally you do. I could be wrong, but if you look at the statute, that I would say you probably do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And in his case, they obviously, unless they couldn't sleep there, right? Like if it's usable, I don't think you owe to them. Now, that might not go very far. I don't know how long they have to live under substandard conditions. My guess is not very long, but there's emergency versus non-emergency. And I would say Tyler's was non-emergency.
Yeah.
Heat out is emergency in Minnesota.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I think our obligation is to address the issue and fix it in a timely manner, and make sure it doesn't happen again. But personal belongings, yeah, that's debatable. Gray area, whether you need to replace them or just should to be a good person, I guess, and keep that relationship good.
All right. What's the next story, Tyler?
All right. So we also had a kid living in the utility room, which I mentioned. The lady left her kid in the building when she left. And
How much is rent for the utility room?
I wasn't charging anything, it turns out, but I guess
Nice
I
guy.
could. Yeah, it was a storage unit he was living in. So we laugh. It's not funny, actually, but
Right. I was teasing you
I
because it's
know.
over and I had nothing to
I
do with
know.
it. But yes.
So I mentioned we had the 4 existing tenants. The one lady that just said, I'm moving out. I'm going to leave. Okay, we need to get in your unit anyway. That's fine. So she had her son living there.
How old's her son?
So he was 17. So we're not talking about a small child, thankfully, but still classified
17
as
still.
a
I've got a
child.
17-year-old. Yeah, I wouldn't want him living on his own.
So I knew of him in the building, never really saw him. He wasn't a troublemaker or anything, but she had moved out, and we noticed as I was visiting the building, weekly or every couple of days, I was noticing things in the utility room that seemed strange. I'd see clothes laying there. I'd see credit cards, things showing up there that I'm like, where are these coming from? There's not many people in the building. And so I also noticed one of the storage units just had a bunch of blankets and shoes and stuff in it. And I thought that was kind of strange, right? So, but I never saw the kid. So a couple times, I call it a week or two later, one of the workers had notified us, hey, there's a kid in the utility room. They asked him what's he doing. He said he lives here. We're like, I don't know of a kid that lives here anymore. I think they're gone. So I'm not sure what that is. So we kept an eye on it. Like a couple weeks later, they said the same thing. This kid is here again. So we did. My partner actually did find him one day and said, hey, you got to leave. He didn't talk much. I ended up meeting this kid. He was pretty quiet. But we told him he had to leave. He can't come back. We actually watched him leave, locked the building, blah, blah, blah. We actually changed the locks on the doors when he came back for the 3rd time because we're like, this kid, he has a key, right? He's getting in and he's just going to keep coming back. So we changed the locks. Lo and behold, he's back again. So
Even with the locks changed,
even with the locks changed,
like someone had the door open.
So he knew how to slide the locks. So he has been living there for 5-6 years, and he told me, I know how to break into this place, basically. So I found him one day. I was there. I showed up. We thought he was gone finally, so I showed up to clean out all the stuff that was left over in this utility room. So I had this is exactly what happened. I walked into the laundry room. I had a big black garbage bag, and I started shoving all these clothes and these shoes and these things that were laying around in these garbage bags. And I go to pick up a comforter in the storage unit, and it moves. Oh, and it startled me like you wouldn't believe. And so I back up.
Yeah, because you've been in there for a couple of minutes at this point, or a minute.
Oh,
or
yeah,
so?
yeah. And so he sticks his head out, and he's waking up. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Poor kid.
Yeah. And so I'm like, hey man, you cannot be here. Like, we've talked to you multiple times. Your mother's gone at this point. She's been gone for a month. You cannot be in here. And he's basically, I started talking to him and he's like, I have no place to go. I was like, do you know where she lives? Have you talked to her? And he said, no, she didn't tell me where she went.
Oh my gosh.
She won't answer her phone. And I didn't know where she went either. She just left, and I didn't need to follow up where she was going and things like that. So, at the end of the day, it was raining that day. So I told him, you got to leave. I can't have you in here. I can't leave you. Yeah, I can't leave you in here. And he's basically was like, I'm not going to leave. I have nowhere to go, and it's raining out. And I wasn't going to force the kid out, right? I'm not going to physically remove him from the building. I felt terrible.
Yeah.
He wasn't causing trouble. He was just living and sleeping in the utility room. And so I called the cops. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this, right? So I called the police. And I waited with them for a couple hours because obviously that's not an emergency for the Minneapolis police to show up to. But what actually happened, so I didn't know this was a thing, but Minneapolis sent, I'm drawing a blank on the 3-letter word. It's like behavioral crisis response, BCR. That's what it is. So a white van shows up right as I'm about to leave. I had kind of given up on waiting. And a van shows up, BCR. So they come out, they're wearing police uniforms, kind of jackets and stuff. So I go out there and I'm like, who are you guys? And they're like, we're here. We are dispatched to every police call in Minneapolis. We are basically like a mental health and basically like a social work program type of thing. And they said, we can help you just like the police can help you. We're not going to enforce, we're not going to chase bad guys, but we're here to help. And so I explained to them the situation, and they were kind of the perfect response team for this type of situation. So they go in there, they talk to the kid. This is another hour-long conversation they're having with him, trying to figure out what's going on. And the guy eventually comes out to me. He says, ultimately, because he's underage, he's a minor, we're dealing with a child abandonment situation. And I'm like, okay, I don't know. What do I do with that? And so they were calling a bunch of places because he's underage. He can't go to a shelter. They can't really send him off on his own because he's underage. So what they ended up doing at the end of the day was admitting him to Children's Hospital. And this was almost just a path that they were using to get the resources they needed. They know how to, work the system a little bit. So they said, we need to admit him to the hospital, get him evaluated. From there, he can go into these different shelter programs, whatever there is. But that's just the way we have to route it. So ultimately, after a couple hours, that's what happened. They took him they got him food, and, he was able to, I didn't throw away all of his stuff. He was able to keep some of his belongings that he had, and he went with them. And I think, I never heard of him after that. He never came back. So I think he got the resources he needed, thankfully. But it was not what I had anticipated encountering cleaning out the utility rooms.
How unsettling. I mean, to think that, I guess we all know this happens, but to even encounter it, someone would abandon their child that, it's just it's mind-boggling to me. And the only thing I can relate it to is we bought a house. We still own it today, 1105 18th and a half Avenue. And when we went in there, it was so incredibly gross that I couldn't imagine living there. And on the back side of one of the doors was a kid's color crayon drawing on it. And it was heartbreaking to me that a kid lived in this squalor, And this place was effing gross, right? And I just think to myself, we gutted the whole thing. We left the walls, but when I say gutted it, we redid everything, the bathrooms, the laundry, everything. So basically the exterior box walls on the inside, we didn't touch, but we did all the plumbing up through the middle. We even took the floors out so you could see from the upper level all the way to the cellar, 3 stories down. Right. So this place was gutted. It was so bad. And it was $55,000 is all we paid for a duplex.
Oh. So
that's how bad it was. And some kids lived there. And I've been in another house where I looked around. You probably have seen this. I was in a house one time where none of the lights worked. You go to look at it and you go to flip a switch and they don't work. Mm-hmm. And everyone was home. They were all kids. And there's kids everywhere. And you go into the closets, and the closets, none of the clothes are hung. They're just like laying on the floor in the closet. If you've ever seen that, none of the lights work. The TV's working. All the kids are looking at the TV, and on the porch is the mom smoking marijuana. And it was marijuana for sure. Right. And I'm just like, this is how you're raising them, huh? They don't have a very good shot at a great life if this is your standard of care.
Yeah.
So you'll see that as a landlord, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a sad deal, and it's it's a different lifestyle some people live. I guess who knows if the kid had been in trouble for his mom and she gave him a million chances and he just hung around. Who knows what the story is? But yeah, it's still not a good situation. But I think at the end of the day, it was probably a good outcome for him to get some sort of help versus just hopping around to the next place to get a roof over his head.
It's a great story because this is landlord nightmare stories, and it starts as like, oh, poor Tyler has this idiot in the room, right? That's at least what I'm thinking at first. And then it's like, hopefully that set him on a better path, and not everyone would be as kind, So it's a great story.
Well, let's face it, I mean, even though it's better than living on the street, living in the basement of an apartment building that's essentially abandoned as is in a storage room that doesn't even have running water and stuff is not a life. So
no.
He needed something.
Yeah, it stunk in there really bad because he was using the utility sink as a bathroom and things like that too. So it was not it wasn't a nice, comfy, cozy situation for him either. So what you just described, Tim, seeing the kids' stuff in a bad situation, that's one of the first things I discovered when I started being a realtor is like, man, you really get an insight to like what life is like for so many people. And even like best case scenario with a lot of these, like, not that there aren't like lower income units where the parents are really trying and providing like a wholesome, engaged experience. I'm sure that exists, but it is so far the minority. And it's almost like best case scenario, it's just like the TV's on nonstop and there's so much unhealthy food everywhere. And it really makes you think about how lucky, we were growing up, how lucky our kids are. It's super eye-opening because best case scenario is still like, man, what kind of a shot do you have?
Yeah. I mean, Elsie talks about he hit the lottery when, like having a family and a parent, a father around, stuff like that. He talks about that, right? And I think it's true. We don't see it because I grew up with a parent, right? I grew up with a family and stuff like that, and a healthy, safe environment. And when you go through them, you'll walk in places, you've seen it too, where the heat is just crazy high, and you're like, how could anyone be comfortable in here? And it's just really stinky, and you're just like, you just see these environments where you're like, I don't think anyone's cleaned in here in months, that kind of stuff. Yeah, see that a lot.
Yeah. One of the biggest lessons I had coming out of this now, if I was to ever do it again, coming into a vacant or partially vacant property, was the plumbing. So we ran into a lot of plumbing issues with plumbing that hadn't been used in a long time. So I mentioned we had 7 vacant units. As we started to get people into these units and started to actually use the plumbing, we ran into a lot of blockages. So we were using periodic water, making sure the water was running, the faucets were working, all that stuff, but we didn't use enough to find these issues until people were taking showers, taking baths, using bathtubs. We had a lot of blockages that we ended up chasing for an entire week. So we had a plumber and a drain cleaner in for an entire week trying to find blockages that we started to find in occupied units. So what happened is we had 1 or 2 that would come in, and so think of these units are stacked on top of each other, so all the plumbing is connected. So you'd have somebody on the first floor, or somebody on the third floor, someone on the second floor, and second floor starts to back up. Now floor starts to back up. Bathtubs mainly is where we started to see it. And so what ended up happening, and we didn't realize it, but we ended up having a plumber and a drain cleaner out for an entire week, trying to chase these blockages ultimately. Because these bathtubs were not draining properly. And what we ended up finding was that, and I'm guessing previous maybe disgruntled tenants, things like that, putting stuff in the drains, but they ended up finding complete solid blockages in drains.
Which doesn't happen.
No,
yeah, you're right.
It's not a natural thing.
Yeah.
Unless
it's hair.
Yeah.
But
the drain cleaner was jetting them. He was snaking them, and he's like, it feels like I'm just hitting concrete, basically. And so they ended up cutting open walls, replacing elbows of pipes and things like that to ultimately fix these. But yeah, they were there for an entire week straight, working together, trying to solve these issues while we had tenants coming in, moving into these units. So that was a nightmare. Learning lesson there. Let's just test the plumbing completely, fill the bathtubs, run the showers for however long to feel confident with the plumbing that's in there, especially stuff that hasn't been used in a long time.
And
Well, for
what did you find in there?
So I never saw it, like physically saw it, but they described it as like a hard cement type substance. So the only thing I can think of is somebody dumped something, maybe a powdery or a construction debris of some type, got in there with water and it solidified and things like that. That's all I could think of.
it very well could have been that.
Yeah.
Like if they're cleaning stuff out in the sinks.
You're right.
But that would be bathtub. Yeah. They could have been cleaning out in the bathtubs, right?
So yeah, that turned out to be a fairly expensive week to have, a plumber and drain cleaner there all week long trying to figure that out, plus replacing pipes, cutting open walls and things like that. Plus the tenant disruptions, blah, blah, blah. But we got to figure it out. Thankfully, I haven't had an issue since.
So just specifically, what do you do different at which point in the process? Like while you're doing your due diligence on the property, do you wish you would have done this so then you could have like renegotiated, or like where in the process would you have done it differently?
I would say, given the state of the building when we bought it, it's not something we would have tried to negotiate necessarily. We kind of knew that we were going to find some issues, but I would have done more as we start to build these units back, more testing on the plumbing, run the water for 10, 15, 20 minutes, make sure everything's operating. We didn't necessarily do that. We made sure the shower worked, made sure the sink worked, but you're turning it on for 5 seconds, a minute maybe. And that wasn't enough water to identify these issues at the scale that we had.
You probably needed to do it in multiple units at one time,
Right.
not just, that's the hard part about that. I know in like in new plumbing, when they're doing supply lines, they can test it by the pressure, right? They can tell whether there's a leak. I don't know if there's a process to do that for drainage. You probably just have to do that.
Right.
Or you could have the jet guy come out, right? And you can just say jet them all.
Yep.
If you can get a deal on it. Hey, we don't think we have any blockages. We don't know of any. Will you come jet everything and tell me what you think?
Yeah.
Right. And then that would be.
Yep. And so with the nature of plumbing being stacked on top of each other, so these units are 3 on top of each other. So picture a pipe runs all the way up and down this building as a drain pipe. You might not have a problem on the first floor. You might not have a problem on the second floor. You've got one on the third floor. And now they go up there and fix that, and it pushes it down to the second floor. It pushes it down to the first floor, and now you've got the same problem. You just moved it.
Yeah.
And so we had that happening too, where they'd fix it in one unit, and now the second unit bathroom starts flooding out, or the bathtub starts not draining, and then they fix that, and it pushes it to the first floor. So they're chasing it around the building essentially until they find it and get that structure or whatever it is out of there, or break it up, or whatever they had to do.
So I apologize if you already said this, but what was the damage total with the dollar
we
amount?
spent like $8,000 or $9,000 in mainly labor, and then the replacement plumbing, the drywall, all that stuff.
I'm wondering if you could have not involved a licensed plumber for that. If I can think of some guys that I used for repairs, I feel like putting one of them with a drain cleaner maybe could have solved the problem.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure there's many different ways you could tackle it. Again, it turned into an urgency thing. We need someone knowledgeable there to try and get it fixed as fast as possible.
Yeah,
because
you
these are
had-
occupied units. Yeah,
You had 30 to 50% of the building filled probably when you started to see this problem.
Yep. So that ended up being a nightmare again, but we figured it out, reacted quickly, got people back up and running as quick as possible. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about plumbing issues, I actually, back when we had the units in Kentucky, our big problem was a lot of the tenants put grease down the drains, right? And probably all know this, but when the grease coats the drain, water does not wash it away. And so then dirt sticks to it and other things stick to it, and then stuff gets down there, and if they do it often enough, it'll plug the drains. And we would be jetting the drains to the building. It seemed like every couple months. It wasn't like all the time, but it was very frequent, like way more than it should have been, Should be almost never, right? It should be,
Right.
And so then it became a problem of how do we get people to not put the grease down the drains? And I came up with a bunch of different ideas. Turns out there is a product that you can buy for people. And I was like, well, I want to give this product away for free. But this gets into our discussion about property managers. Property managers are not overly interested when they're third party in getting very creative on anything. They just don't care. It's like, this is one problem to them out of many, where it's your biggest problem. So
Yeah, this kind of, so the theme of plumbing and water. So I wanted to get into this as a tip or a piece of advice for people is to really pay attention to your monthly water bills and your gas bills. So as a property manager or as a landlord, those can often tip you off to issues that you're having in your building before they really become issues. So one thing we did happen as well, back when those 4 existing tenants were in there, is all of a sudden 1 month my water bill came in about 5 times what it had been previously. So we were running $200 to $300 a month with a couple of units in there, and it was like $1,500, followed by my gas bill was also $1,500. And we're talking in like April. And so I was like, wow, what just happened here?
It's a water heater issue? What was
it? It was actually what ended up happening. Luckily, we only had 4 occupied units to go searching here, but one tenant had a bathtub, a hot water valve on a bathtub wouldn't shut off anymore, and they just decided not to tell anybody. So they just had hot water running through their bathtub 100% of the time. So that's hot water heater is trying to keep up. That's your gas, and then the water bill. So you can picture, oftentimes, most of the time, if you have a high water bill that pops up, it's a running toilet. That's what most of the time is. But so you can imagine, amplify that by a bath faucet running 24/7 hot water, and that caused, it cost us ultimately probably $2,000, $2,500 in utility expense for a bathtub that ran. I estimated for about 2 to 3 weeks it ran.
So if anyone wants it, I'll give them the clause. I have a clause to protect myself against this in my lease because I had this happen too. We had $1,000 water bill on a duplex.
Oh, wow.
And so what they had was a leaky toilet and a leaky sink faucet at the same time and didn't tell us. And so the wording is a little complicated, but essentially it says if you have a water bill that's more than X percent, I think it's double the 12-month average, then you have to pay the difference between the 12-month average and the bill itself, which in that case would have been $900 on the tenant, roughly, right? And so that's not the exact wording, but it's something like that, right? So the idea is we're just going to look at what the average is. If you're double that, then you pay. Anything below double, we pay. But they pay the full difference.
Okay.
And so
I do like that because it puts a little bit of ownership on them. A lot of times you're paying the water bill as a duplex or even a fourplex owner. You're paying the water bill. So what's the incentive for them to not run the water all the time? Not use not take 2-hour-long hot showers. They're not paying the water. It doesn't matter. So I do like that. It gives them a little ownership in the bill.
And for the record, I put that clause in 7 or 8 years ago and have not had to use it since. So hopefully it does exactly what we want, is just report water leaks. And so when I go over my lease, that is one of the points, is like, if there is a water leak, we want to know. If you have a running faucet or a running toilet, we want to know. And by the way, if you don't tell us, it could cost you money.
Yep.
I wonder if that clause would be okay. And again, this clause is probably not, it's not going to see a courtroom, right?
Probably
but
not. Yeah.
The state has gotten so specific on rubs and how you need to, that with your single water meter property, it probably doesn't hold up in court, I would think. But at least
you'd find the leak, right? So you could say, hey, this is you, right? All we want is if they report the leak, by the way, it immediately, the clause does say something in here where as soon as they report it, they're off the hook, as long as they report, if they report it soon enough. I don't remember the exact wording. You might be right. It might not hold up in court, but not every lease clause has to hold up in court.
Yeah.
That was my point. Yeah. But they've got you're charging someone for water and you're not doing it in the correct way that the state wants you to do it. But I love picturing this tenant of Tyler's who's just hanging out with just all the time.
24 hours a day.
Yeah. They didn't seem to not think it was an issue, I guess. But I guess to drive home the point of really paying attention to your water bills, this just happened to me a month ago. My water bill, I get the notification in my email, my water bill was $1,500. At this point, we're running on average about $500 a month for a fully occupied building. So I get this $1,500 notification. And so I panic immediately. Well, every day now that goes by, this is adding up. I've got some
it's
sort of
$500
issue,
a day,
right? So I reached out to every single tenant. Do you have a leaking toilet, a leaking faucet, anything? Nothing. No. Everybody says, nope, not me. We're good. I've got nothing. So I said, there has to be something. So I go there and I go through every single unit. I look at the toilets, I look at the sinks, I look at the showers, any water source to find, and I see it, not a single drop of water anywhere. And I'm like, what is happening? And like, where do I go from here? What do I do? What happened was the billing system just started stacking my bills on top of each other in my emails. So had I just gone and looked at the actual bill online, I would have seen that I have no problem. My bills are normal. I just wasn't paying attention.
What do you mean by stacking it online?
So
It's still
it
not
had
making
added
sense.
3 months on top of each other in this notification process that they had that sends me my emails that says you have a bill due in this amount. It had just added a bunch of months together. It was an error in their system. But it caused me to do a whole bunch of work and stuff that I wouldn't have had to do if I would have just spent the time digging into the bill a little bit first before I went and reacted to it. So
We had an old building in Georgia where the supply line going in had busted a leak underground. Had that happen twice now. That'll cause a really big water bill too. Like I think that was a $3,000, $4,000 water bill, something like that.
yikes. Yeah, and I guess
The repair was worse.
a lot of these bills we just put on auto pay and you don't think about them. Pay attention to them. It'll tip you off to a lot and your expenses can get out of control in a hurry if you're not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's wild how I just have not had, as a landlord, surprising expensive things happen to me. Like truly. Maybe it's just because single family and small multifamily is a different bear, you know? I'm just
I
trying
think that's a big part of it. You know, there's the type of person who lives in an apartment building is usually saving. Well, in the buildings we own, I'm not talking A class, right? But in the C's and maybe even the B minus buildings, they're there not because it's a better place, but it's just a little bit cheaper and so forth and so forth, right? And the way you make those buildings really profitable is by cutting corners compared to like what you do in your because you're getting $1,800 for a 2-bedroom, whereas he's getting $1,350, right, or whatever, right? I'm making the numbers up, right?
14,
but the point is, there's a sneak in that extra $500. You're willing to fix things. That
I'm getting
things don't fix.
$2,500 to $3,500
Okay,
for a
very-
2-bedroom.
very-
So
There you go. Those are really high end places.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, so I think there's just a different clientele and a different level of care and you know stuff like that, right?
But I do know people with single family homes. I just golfed with my buddy last night, and he's put like $60,000 into his primary, and maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he did a sewer line, he did a roof, and he had to do the sheathing underneath, which insurance didn't cover. He had a bunch of diseased trees, so like things can happen as a single family owner. I think I'm
absolutely.
maybe just fortunate. Buying a building with like a really strong pedigree too, like from buy a triplex that was owner occupied for 50 years. You know, I think that will go a long way.
There's nothing like disease trees. I mean, paying whatever $6,000 to have a tree removed just is a kick in the you know what.
I had that. I had a $5,500
is
tree
it?
removal in St. Paul.
Okay,
Yeah.
there's another
Ash-
horror story.
If you have an ash tree on your property in Minneapolis or in Minnesota, that thing's going to die and you're going to have to remove it. Just a heads up. They're all dying. So I had a $5,500 removal in St. Paul, and then I had 3 of them in a Brooklyn Center property that all are dead now at this point. Luckily, those ones are on the boulevard, so the city's going to take care of them.
Oh, good.
You know,
Otherwise,
right away. But,
I was
yeah.
hearing you starting a tree service. in
I
my-
know. I need to. So I guess I've talked a lot about building issues. I have a tenant issue that now has popped up in this timeline that we're talking about, right? So one of my tenants that moved in new to the building, very qualified, great tenant, communicated well, no problems right off the bat. Moved in, great. She kept a very clean unit. I was in and out of there a handful of times helping her with some things. Kept a very clean unit, very organized lady. Fast forward 6-7 months and I'm getting some very weird communication from her. I'm getting people are breaking into my unit and people are harassing me, and she put a camera in her unit because she became kind of paranoid, and she's saying people are hacking it. I know they're coming in, they're hacking into my camera and they're deleting the footage and all this stuff. And you know, I've anticipated this a little bit, but she must have gone through or started to go through some mental health issues. Because I know this stuff isn't happening, right? I'm following up on some of the things that she's saying because she's blaming other tenants and things like that I just know are not true. And you know, I did a little digging in to see, like, for example, she said the guy across from me, him and his friends were out in the street yelling at me at midnight telling me to get out of here and things like that. Well, this guy is like a middle-aged guy with a family and 2 young kids, and I know he's not doing this right. Yeah. So these things aren't adding up. And so she would also, after she would communicate to me, I'd kind of ask some clarifying questions, and it would kind of just disappear and dry up, and she would never say anything about it again. And then I'd see her 2 weeks later and she wouldn't bring it up. You think if you're having all these issues, you're going to bring it up to your landlord when you see him next, right? It's like they never happened. She was happy as can be. Great living here. Great to see you. Nothing. So yeah, there's like some,
not like, hey, did you ever follow up on that? No,
yeah, nothing.
Like it never existed.
So like it never happened. So all I can chalk it up to is mental health issues, right? So she's still a good tenant, still paying, right? Fast forward again a few more months, I go into her unit to fix something for her, and there is stuff everywhere. Like she's turned into a hoarder, basically. There's a path through the apartment to get to the bathroom and the bedroom, and thankfully, it's not like dirty. It's just stuff. It's boxes stacked on top of each other and clothes, and there's just stuff everywhere. And so now I've got a kind of a hoarder issue, right, that I have to deal with. But this woman, again, she's not dirty. She's not causing problems, but it is a safety concern, right? So if you were to have a rental inspection come in here, or a fire or something like that, you've got a problem now with really an inaccessible unit. They can't. If the fire department needs to come through a window for some reason, they're not getting anywhere because there's so much stuff in here, right? So now I have to deal with this, and really the way you have to really communicate with these people, understand where they're coming from. They've got something going on here that you can't just tell her, clean it up and I'll be back in a week and make sure it's cleaned up. That's not going to happen, right? So it's really emphasize, whatever the word is, empathizing. You can tell I'm not great at that because I can't even emphasizing.
No. You were right the first time. Empathy.
You can tell I'm not good at it because I can't even say the word, but I do my best. But yeah, just really kind of meet them where they're at and understand that they're having issues, but really explain why this is a real issue.
And that's where you emphasize.
Exactly. First, there you go. There you go.
You emphasize the empathy.
Yeah. There you go. So I kind of explained to her, like, look, if we do have a rental inspection, this is a real safety concern that we have going on here. This is not me just saying you have a dirty, unorganized unit and I have a problem with it. This is a real issue that we need resolution on.
Although, let's be clear, in the law, you can make someone clean up their place. You can make people take care of their place on some level. I don't know where the line is, but you can.
Yeah, it's a kind of a touchy subject because you're just dealing with a really personal problem here, right?
Correct.
And so, I'm still working with her on it to this day. She's working on it. She's cleaning it up, but we're still not quite there where I need it to be. But yeah, just a tough situation when people are dealing with mental health issues that you just need to work with them on it. A lot of them aren't intending, malicious intent, that they're just not taking care of things. They've got something going on. So help them understand why it's a problem, why we need it cleaned up. The why behind it is really important, and not just hey, here's a lease violation, clean this up. That's not going to land with them, right? It's going to cause more problems, and they're going to panic. They're going to stress. It's going to come back to you with other issues. So really working with them as just they're people, work with them as people and help them solve the problems. So help them help you in a way.
I had a lady who I moved into this triplex, and we live on the top floor, and we inherited a tenant on the main floor. And she's an African-American lady, which matters when you hear what happened. She's really pissed at me one day. We've only been there for like a week, but she's being weird to me. And she like confronts me, or no, I think she texts me first, like, what the F, like, do you think I'm stupid? Blah, blah, blah. She had accused me of putting pieces of watermelon, like, on her mailbox.
Oh, geez.
As like a racial thing.
Sure.
Huh. And I'm like, ma'am, I would never do that. I don't know what else to say other than, and she just did not believe me whatsoever. And it happened again. And I'm like, dude, are squirrels for one thing, is this a mental health issue? Is there actually watermelon showing up, or is she making this up? And honestly, she ended up leaving. And maybe she just wanted to get out of her lease. Dude, it was the weirdest freaking thing ever. Wow, this watermelon. And then right before she left, aside, I was like trying to parallel park my truck on the street. And I didn't realize, but she was sitting in her car in front of me. And I'm adjusting a parallel parking job. And I tapped her. I'm like, if I paid you $100 to like, hey, hit that bumper as soft as you can with your car, that's about as soft as I tapped her bumper.
Yeah.
She was in the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, this lady's crazy. So I took a video right away of both the bumpers. I get a call from her insurance. Hey, she's been out of work for a few days because like her car's dented and her neck is hurt and all this stuff. At this point, she's still living in the triplex.
That's tough.
So I ended up just like, I was really firm with my insurance. I'm like, hey, this lady's lying. Here's the video. They didn't even care. They're like, it's cheaper just to pay her like $2,000. And then the lady ended up leaving. But like, jace, that was a doozy.
Yeah.
You absolutely will have people try to take advantage of you. And our strategy for that is just simply to be nice but firm. We try to give very clear directions up front. And I know Adam and I take a different approach. He says like moving in, like he does like whatever, like bend over backwards for the first 30 days. And that works for him. That is not what we do. We're just always consistently nice but firm, meaning that we set boundaries and we just don't let those boundaries get crossed, because I have had, people try to push me, right? Early on, it doesn't happen as much as it used to, or actually it's happening more again now. There was a real sweet period where it was just so easy to be a landlord. But before the last crash, I mean, we had people trying to take advantage of us all the time and just lying to get out of leases and lying for this and lying for that. And you catch them in the lies and stuff. So I just learned to be real firm, right? Like I had the stripper who was trying to like, I don't know, somehow she thought like if she flirted with me and stuff that I was somehow going to be I don't even know what she thought really. I'm like, I said, this is not working with me. I'm not your babe. Stop talking to me like this.
Tim's like, I'll give you 3 months to stop doing this. No.
Oh, here's a good one. So this is a Charles Daly tactic that I used in rental. So I had Charles Daly is a former mortgage boss of mine, and if a person was like refusing to give us a document that we needed for approval, he would send them a denial letter, because in the end that's what would happen, right? But he'd just send them the letter, say, okay, well, you're denied then, right? And immediately you get the document back, right? So we had a problem with her, and she was just stringing me on with all these things. So I just sent her a letter saying we're not going to renew your lease. And this is like 2 months in the lease. I'm telling her we're not renewing. And for the remaining like 10 months at least, she kept trying to talk me into renewing her lease. I'm like, no, I told you.
Yeah.
I told you 4 months ago we're not renewing. We're not renewing.
Yep.
But sometimes I think you can do it both ways. My wife is probably a little bit more soft than I am, but like we're still really kind. We're not mean about it, but we're like, this is the boundary. You did this. This is against the lease.
Yeah. One of the tough ones that I've had happen, I had this happen right when I bought my Brooklyn Center 7 unit, a winter slip and fall in the parking lot. So I think it was roughly 2 weeks after I bought it, I got a text, hey, I fell in the parking lot. Or it was the sidewalk. It's a very short sidewalk into the parking lot. And so at this point, like, what do you do with that? Or are they fishing? They're fishing for something is what ends up happening a lot of times. I guess what I did that, and I've had this happen twice now, and neither of them turned into anything, thankfully, but really just, say, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you okay? Be very kind and caring to them. What happened? Like, can you tell me what happened? Where did it happen? Is there ice there? I'll get out there right away and salt it. Like, care about them, react to it, show them that you care. And both times I did that, it turned into nothing. They were fine. I think it was a minimal fall, if they even really happened. I don't know, but those are tricky ones too, because they can turn into, oh, I went to the hospital. Oh, I'm out of work. In Adam's situation, oh, her neck hurts. Like, and did that really happen? It can spiral into a whole insurance nightmare for you. Your best case is react to it right away, care, be nice, fix the problem, and then hopefully you can't stop them from doing, going to the hospital or calling their insurance or whatever. But I think the way you react to it's going to dictate a lot of what they do with it and how far they take it.
Totally. I completely agree. Whatever, don't ignore it, right? For sure. I think it brings up a sub issue of, in Minnesota in the winters, have salt accessible for your tenants to be able to spread whenever they want. We buy the Home Depot bucket with a scoop in it. We put salt in it, and we use the salt that's non-corrosive, because if you use too much of the other stuff, it ruins your cement, and with a cover on it. And we let everyone know when we send it out. We send a message saying, hey, there's salt by the door. If you ever see it slippery, make sure you salt, right? They're not required to, but they're given the option to. So they have some agency. And that person might have just been like, I'm not really mad at Tyler, but if there isn't salt here, I'm going to get pissed because this is slippery, right?
Yeah, I do the exact same thing now. I did that right away after that happened. For the first time, I put salt at both doors, sent out the note, hey, there's salt here. Hey, be careful. We live in Minnesota. It's slippery, especially right after it snows. Be very obvious. We all know that already, right? But do your due diligence and call it out. Salt, if you see it slippery, if you need to let me know about it, please do. Kind of cover your bases there. And it hasn't been a problem since.
We send out a seasonal message. Yep, exactly. It's so easy to do, especially if you have Shuck. You can just do it to all your tenants at one time. You can send it to every single unit at once, or if you want to send it by city or whatever, it's perfect. But we send out a message every season. We also have people taking care of lawnmowers and stuff like that, and we'll let people know. Just, it's good to have that, right? And you should be having the property checked by handyman as the seasons change in the spring and the fall. I think are a minimal. Throw your handyman out there for 30 minutes to an hour. Walk around, turn off the water spouts, make sure just like the most basic stuff, right?
Yep.
And probably should be an hour, and they should be doing filters and that kind of thing.
I've even gone as far as just sending out, there's a snowstorm coming. We know it's going to be bad in the next 24 to 48 hours. It's probably going to be slippery. Please be very careful. Just a proactive communication, like I touched on earlier, goes a long ways to mitigating any potential issues that might come up.
Yeah, you can. So we used to do that. You can sign up in Minneapolis and I believe St. Paul, but for sure Minneapolis, you can sign up for emergency snow news, right? So it's a texting service. And so now what we do instead, because we don't want them to somehow think that we're responsible to send the notices, is in our lease, I have a page, and one of those pages is how they can sign up for the alerts in Minneapolis and St. Paul for those emergency news. So if they park on the street and they get towed, they're not blaming me. I'm like, dude, I'm probably the only landlord in the state that tells you how to avoid this. Like, you had the news, you didn't sign up for the text alert, right? Not that I get that, or I actually never have, but the point is like, you're giving them the way to take care of it.
Yeah. And when I was a bartender, I used to get towed so often on the snow emergencies because you're going out at night. You set your alarm to wake up to move your car at 8 a.m. Nobody's getting up at 7:45 a.m. I got a note here that I was taking when you were talking. Tenants with cameras, not a fan. Not a fan at all. If you're walking through an investment property, you're thinking about buying it, and the tenants have a camera set up, especially if they have a monitor inside, do not renew that tenant. And somebody in the comments is probably going to say tenants have rights like a homeowner to be safe and protected and stuff. But okay, but I don't want to rent to them because those people are the worst. They really are.
Yeah. Chances are they're paranoid or they're going to try to use it against you in some way. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah, I agree there.
It's just a person. It's a certain personality type that rents a place and then sets up surveillance. And no thanks, man.
Yeah, and there's the other one too, where you've probably run across this before, but they'll tell you how they're suing their current landlord or how they sued a previous landlord or that kind of thing. Nicole's no, I'm sorry, we don't want someone who that's their attitude. We don't sue our tenants. We're not looking for tenants who sue their landlords.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit into a leasing stuff here, but yeah, anytime you hear someone that needs to move immediately, or they're moving because they have problems with their existing landlord, that's a red flag you need to look into.
Yeah. The last one, what I was hearing, I'm like, well, it sounds to me like, we're doing some Section 8 housing now. And I said, my wife was like, yeah, but they were not using a legal bedroom. And I said, it sounds to me like someone who doesn't have any money, who's trying to save money, I'm like, I don't think this is a big deal. Their voucher covers it. I think we ignore this particular issue. But yeah, they were actually getting kicked out because they were using a basement as a bedroom, and the fire marshal was saying this cannot be used as a bedroom. And basically they're living in a place that was too small for their family size, is what it came down to. I'm like, I don't think this is what we were meant to guard against. But yes.
It's amazing how many tenants will talk SHIT about their current or post landlord while they're talking to their potential new landlord. It's like you don't go into a job interview and talk crap about your current job. It's yeah.
No, some
funny.
people do.
Well,
maybe, I don't know actually if they do.
well, and rightfully so too, because I feel like a lot of landlords are bad landlords, and so like the crap they're talking a lot of the time is probably justified, but maybe it just
probably don't.
It happened to me literally 3 days ago.
Yeah. We get it every so often. I mean, some of these things that may make it sound like it's very frequent. It's really not. We've had years of good tenants. We had a rocky one recently, actually something we talked about later. I think this is worth bringing up. I don't know if it's a horror story per se, but it was really annoying for us. And we had some people who were from out of state, right? They lived in Boston and they were moving back to the Twin Cities. They're originally from here, couple. And so they didn't get to see the place ahead of time, right? And Nicole did the video walkthrough and everything else. And by the way, we will never rent to anyone from out of state unless they do some sort of video walkthrough. We used to even they would have like a relative come over. We still want them to have some sort of idea what it's like, right? And anyway, they did all that. They moved in, and we started getting kind of complaints pretty quickly. And some of those complaints were really nitpicky stuff. Other ones were legitimate, right? And so long story short, maybe I shouldn't make it short. I'm just trying to think of all the issues. One of those issues was that the shower was kind of, I guess, mildewy or something, or just kind of, and I looked at it and I'm like, well, it's actually not mildewy. It's clean, but it's 12 years old and it really looks like it's 12 years old. There's like, I don't know, just stuff that cannot be cleaned away and tarnish. And I'm like, it's kind of gross, even though I don't think it's unsafe. I'm like, we looked at it and we're like, we're going to replace it. Well, replacing a shower, takes a couple of days, right? You got to get the old one out, put the new one in. You got to let things dry. It's not immediate. So we said, hey, this is what our plan is. Are you cool with it? They said, yeah. And I'm like, okay, it's going to take 3 days to do. Well, it ended up taking 4, and all this stuff. And the big problem was we couldn't get a contractor. They only wanted it done on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever, starting on a Thursday. And we're like, well, okay, well, then I have to have a contractor who can start it on a Thursday. And we kept getting this start and stop stuff like, oh, I think they're doing it this week. Oh, no, they can't do it on Thursday, that kind of thing. And so they actually nicked us for that in their complaints. I'm like, well, we're working around your schedule. If you let them do it today, it's going to be 3 days and it's done. So we had some issues like that, right? Just coordinating. But the whole time, the communication was good for my wife. And what really solidified it, and this kind of reminded me, I've brought this up before, but throughout the process, my wife was super nice to him. And at one point in the process, this is kind of towards the end, we were doing showings because we agreed to let them out of the lease, but under the conditions we got to show it and these other things. They tried to make it really hard, but one time they denied a showing because they were sick. So my wife came over and she brought him chicken noodle soup and gave it to him. And actually after that, they were just super nice to us the rest of the time.
Kill them with kindness.
Yeah. Really, really nice to us the whole time. That was her idea. She did it on her own. But they did try to, and so here, I think this is a good point. I guess I kind of skipped over this, but like they started trying to deny showings they couldn't legally deny. And we had an agreement with them that the only way they could get out of the lease, if this is what was going to happen, we got 2 showings a week, which is all we ever do. We never do more than 2 showings a week, but we got 2 showings a week, tours a week, this and that. And they started denying them. And they said, well, we don't want you to show up for the next 3 weeks because we're going to be gone and out of town. And I replied back, well, our agreement says this. So if you're trying to cancel the agreement, we can do that.
Yeah.
But this is what I mean by the kind but firm. And we're like, no, I mean, this is in writing. So I do recommend that you get things in writing. And the other thing we see people do sometimes is they'll say, oh, well, they can deny if you have less than 24 hours. But if it's more than 24 hours, you're not asking for acceptance. You're giving them notice, right?
We deal with that as agents all the time. Yeah. Like, you're not ever asking for permission. It's just, hey, here's the showing. Same
Yeah.
with tenants.
And so I will, within reason, I've had a couple of times where people have said, well, that won't work for us. And if I have flexibility, I'll usually be like, okay, well then I could do it Wednesday instead of Thursday or whatever the thing is, right? But if we don't, I just say, well, I'm not, and I don't say it mean, but I'm not asking for permission. I'm telling you, this is what we're going to do. And then I just kind of restate the state law, in a paraphrased format. It's really important to know the laws. And if you need to, by the way, you go to Minnesota Revisor of Statutes website and look up landlord-tenant law. If you ever need to quote a law, do that. Do you remember what the statute is, what number it is?
I don't.
No idea.
Okay.
ChatGPT is great for this stuff, though. And ask for a link.
Well, look for it. Yep. Look for it and then just paste the law right into the email. And so, and that stops it every time.
Sure. Speaking of, you brought up a point that reminded me of something, kind of repairs that take multiple days, your shower example.
Yeah.
So we had a hot water heater go out. So hot water is one of those things, it's kind of like heat, right? They need hot water. You can't go a week without hot water for tenants. Otherwise, you're going to need to look at providing them some other accommodations if they can't bathe and cook and things like that. So we had a hot water heater go out, and back to my point in this is going to be the communication piece. So a hot water heater in a commercial building is kind of a big deal. It's not like a residential water heater. So very expensive. You can't go to Home Depot necessarily and grab one and get it put in right away. It takes a little time.
They're like a boiler, depending on the size of the building anyway.
Yeah, and not all companies even touch commercial water heaters. So your residential plumbing company that you like to use might not even install commercial water heaters. So we had one that went out. I got one notification from a tenant, said, hey, my hot water's not working. And I didn't hear from anybody else. And so that was weird. I thought maybe we just have one valve issue or something in this tenant. But then I got another text, and then I got another one. So okay, this is a hot water issue, right? So I got someone out right away the next day, confirmed, can we fix it? No, it's 25-year-old water heater. We figured it was going to go eventually. They confirmed we cannot fix it. We'll have to get you a new one. We'll order it. So we're looking at a 2-day window here, right? So my point in this is, as soon as that hot water, I got that notification that we didn't have hot water, I sent out an all building email, right? Hey, this is what's happening. We don't have hot water. And essentially every 3 to 4 hours, even if nothing has happened, I was sending communication. Hey, here's what we're doing now. Here's what's happening next. The company's coming to look at this at this time. Hey, the company told us they can't fix it. They need to order one. Hey, the plumbing company has ordered one. It's expected to arrive tomorrow morning. I did that the entire time. So we actually did go about a 2-day period without hot water, and I did not get a single complaint from anybody because I was beating them to the punch with the communication. So that's the proactive communication can solve a lot of issues before it even starts for you. If you leave people in the dark, you're going to get disgruntled tenants. You're going to get mean communication. You're going to get calls and emergencies and blah, blah, blah. It's just going to be so much worse than if you just be upfront. They just want to know what's going on. Most tenants are reasonable. We're sitting here talking about a lot of bad tenant stories. Most tenants are reasonable. It's the bad ones that make all of them seem terrible. But yeah, if you keep them updated, let them know what's going on, react to the issues, 9 times out of 10, you won't have a problem. And that one went very smoothly for something that could have been a huge hindrance to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, sometimes they have legitimate complaints. Another one, this wasn't the Orchestra, but part of that same group, the people who moved from Boston, who moved out quickly, one of the issues they had is we got them a brand new refrigerator. By the way, they complained. They complained because it took too long to move the old one out and the new one in. It's like, oh, come on, we gave you a brand new refrigerator anyway. Nicole dropped everything to do all this. Well, anyway, in the installation of the refrigerator, the people who are taking the old one out and putting the new one in damaged something of theirs. And it was a wedding present, unfortunately, right? It wasn't anything super special. It was like a kitchen appliance. I forget exactly what it was, but an appliance that stays on your countertop, right? I don't even remember, maybe a hot pot or something, right? And they damaged it. And it was clear it was damaged, and there was no question. So anyway, I mean, we obviously, we asked them, I said, what do you want us to do? I mean, the damage has happened. We can't, give you back your thing. We can either buy you a new one and we'll have it shipped from Amazon, or we'll give you 100% replacement cost. What would you like? Right? Because that's all I can do. I mean, and sorry, right? We did apologize, but it's like, I didn't even do it. And frankly, the people who did the work should have paid for it, but
Yeah. How far do you want to
that's
chase
not how that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, they were right. We saw that they were right. We hired the wrong person or whatever, however you want to call it, but like, it wasn't their fault that the thing got damaged, and we shouldn't put it on them. So you take care of it and you move on. So sometimes you just got to do that, right?
Yep.
I think this is a great. I mean, do you have any other pressing nightmare stories?
I have
You wanna do
one.
more?
I have one more. I've been saving my big one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would hate to cut you off.
So
We call it the biggin.
yeah. So leading all the way up, all those other issues, right? They seem terrible. Not a big.
Oh, I know what this
They're
one
not
is.
a big deal now when you have a fire.
Yeah.
So I have a full-time W-2 job. I'm not a full-time landlord or I don't do that full time. So I'm sitting at my job in a meeting, and I get a text from a tenant that just says building on fire. That's all it says. And so your heart just sinks at that moment. Like, is this a kitchen fire, or is the whole thing up in flames? Your mind goes wild, right? And so you immediately start thinking, is my insurance good enough? Where are the tenants going to go? You're thinking the worst right away. So I call her immediately and I say, what's going on? And thankfully she picked up, and I hear just screaming in the background, and I hear, get out of the building. And I hear all this commotion going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this building is going to be rubble when I get there. Right. And so she says, there's smoke, there's black smoke coming out of everywhere. There's black smoke's filled the building, and she's yelling at people, get out of the building. And I'm like, oh no. So I get another call from another tenant while I'm on the phone with her, and then another call. And this is like at 2 p.m. roughly, on a Thursday. And it was June 29th. I know the day. And so
I'm never going to forget.
yeah. And so I drop everything, and I'm like, I will be there. And traffic was terrible. So it took me 45 minutes to get there. But in the meantime, someone else had called me, actually the lady who, it was her unit that was on fire. And she gave me oh, it's not that bad. And I'm like, okay, I just got off the phone with someone who's yelling at everyone to get out of the building because there's black smoke everywhere. And then I got oh, it's not that bad. So now I don't know what to expect when I get there. So I get there, and the fire department, I pull up, I'm about a block away. They have the street blocked off on both ends. There's fire trucks everywhere. There's police cars everywhere. And luckily they didn't have the alley blocked off. So I drove down the alleyway and got to the back, and I see nothing. I see no smoke. I see nothing, but I see all the tenants that were in the building at the time kind of piled into the entryway because it was raining out. And I see firefighters everywhere, and there's cops, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm walking into here, but this doesn't look as bad as I thought it was. Ultimately, this could have been extremely bad, and somehow I feel like we just got so lucky with the way this all happened. But this unit that we converted into a third bedroom, she left a candle or something burning in the bedroom, and it started a dresser on fire in the lower. This third bedroom is basically in the basement. It's on the main floor right next to our boiler room, right next to our utility room. So the fire was basically contained in that basement unit, and we're talking plaster walls, concrete foundation. So not a ton of stuff to burn up in here, thankfully. But essentially that candle fell or whatever it did. I don't know. It hit the dresser. The dresser started on fire, started the wall on fire. The smoke damage started coming up into the main floor unit, which is up the stairs into the main level. And her kids were home, thankfully. So her kids called 911 immediately when they smelled the smoke. The smoke detectors obviously started going off. They smelled the smoke. They called. Somehow the fire department is like, they must be on warp speed or something. They were there within minutes and had it put out, where basically the fire burned up that entire lower bedroom. And smoke damage throughout the hallway upstairs and everything, and smoke into the main level. But the fire was contained into a very small area that it could have taken out the whole building if it would have gone for even a few more minutes probably and spread really fast. But yeah, this fire department crew in South Minneapolis, they obviously were professionals, knew exactly what they were doing. They didn't break anything. They didn't take down any doors. They had that thing out within minutes and contained it to an extremely small area. Ultimately, we did have to gut that entire unit that was brand new 6 months earlier. We had to redo all the smoke remediation, repaint everything, refinish everything. It was like a six to 8 week rebuild back into this unit again, but extremely lucky that it did not displace a single other tenant. It didn't damage any other units. It didn't damage any common spaces. It was contained to this one basement bedroom. So all things considering, I'll take water heaters and plumbing leaks and all that stuff all day long. But we got super lucky with this fire, and now I can say I had a unit start on fire and had to deal with that.
I think the thesis of this episode, you guys, is like, this is not for everyone. I think a lot of people get attracted to real estate investing because they think they're like a finance type person. I mean, who doesn't want to be more wealthy? Who doesn't want more money? But if you consider yourself to be like more sensitive than the average person, or just not generally great at rolling up your sleeves and figuring stuff out, and it's not as simple as like, oh, you'll just get a property manager, because to manage a manager, you need to have tact. It's a whole different amount of skills. Yeah. And so really think long and hard, because there's a lot of other things to invest in. I did a walkthrough with this guy a few days ago who's like 73 years old, self-managing 29 units throughout St. Paul, 13 unit here, 10 unit here, duplex and a fourplex, something like that. And the guy's phone rang, 16 times while we were walking through his properties. And that's probably not normal with 29 units, but you're going to get some, every hour. And man, he had a great relationship with his tenants. He's this clearly very wealthy individual, pulls up in like a 98 F-150 with a box and tools on the back. And just, he's been self-managing since his 30s, all these units. And then, man, it takes a very unique individual. And just think about it based on your personality type. If you're thinking about getting into this.
Yeah. And it's the long game too. It's not all glitz and glam like Instagram. You're probably not going to get rich in 3 years and be able to retire like it all seems to be on social media. So it's the long game. If you're going to get into it, be in it for a while. And that's how you make money. Time in the market, as they say, versus timing the market is how you do this.
Well, and luckily you do not have to self-manage for 40 years, 30 units. That's the good, this is an extreme. I'm putting two extreme examples on either end of the spectrum. Yeah. You can happen to own one extra property, and guess what? If it's a nice property in a nice area, it might not even be that hard. And I'm living proof of that,
Absolutely.
I've given a dozen horror stories here out of basically one building, right? I have 2 other buildings that have been great. So don't let these scare you that it's all a nightmare all the time. I've got one property in St. Paul that I have extremely great tenants. They take care of it like it's their own. I rarely ever have to go there for anything. They fix their own issues, similar to, I think, your experience, Adam. Just great properties, great tenants. Those are the ones that make this seem super fun, and you love it, and you get energized, and you want to keep doing it. And then you get the bad ones, or I don't even want to call them bad, because they're learning lessons, they're problems you're working through, and you make your money by solving problems, right? That's what you're doing at the end of the day. So don't let the horror stories scare you. If you're someone that's looking to jump in, it's not always like that. But as you get more experience and you're in it for a longer period of time, you're going to run into issues like this, and you just have to deal with them.
And you can't hit the jackpot deals if you don't get a couple duds. Yeah. We're cooking up something right now that hopefully is going to be as good as we think it is, right? And but when you were looking at this particular deal we've been discussing all day, you were thinking that was going to be a great thing. It turned out not to be. But that's just luck of the draw, man. Mm-hmm. You gotta buy your lottery ticket if you want a shot at winning.
Totally agree. But here's something like you'll see, people always think like value add. And I've done a lot of value add, mostly value add, but they downplay the turnkey, right? And I've made a crazy amount of money on turnkey properties too. My 2 most profitable properties, I would call it, were turnkey in terms of rent anyway, in terms of cash flow. So it is not inherently bad to buy a turnkey property. That's one thing I'll say. The second thing I would say is there's a reason why lenders will lend to a property that's as vacant as yours, because they already know there's problems. And it might not be that property that's the problem property, but they don't become that vacant on accident. There's actually reasons why they don't have tenants. And it's not just like one lazy owner. It starts with a lazy, cheap owner who doesn't fix something, and then they can't rent a place. Then they don't fix something else, and they can't rent the next place. And then people start leaving because it stinks. Then right, and on and on and on. And the pipes are bad, and the water's always backing up. So, if you go to a place and it's all vacant and it's not a duplex, it's like, let's say 5 units and up and it's vacant, there's problems. You knew that going in, right? But there's problems. Don't think otherwise. You're not stealing the property without fixing problems. You got problems you got to solve. You just got to figure out what those problems are.
Yeah. Looking back at this, I don't regret doing this project at all. I still own the building, still managing it. We've worked through a lot of the issues. We don't have all these things happening all the time anymore, but I got a first seat, world-class education on real estate investing with this thing. I've ran into more problems than I could have even dreamt up and worked through them. And so the education in itself was worth the project, because I know so much more now going into the next project that I know I can, if I was to lose money on this property at the end of the day, I know I can go make it that much more in the next one because of all the stuff I know. Yeah. So,
well, that's what makes your personality uniquely qualified and a great fit for real estate investing. Well, thanks, Tyler. We really appreciate it. Again, Tyler's a licensed agent. If you want a guy with all this experience helping you out, where can people find you?
Yep. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. Just search my name, Tyler Nash. Otherwise, email me. My company name is Nash Property Co. So Tyler at nashpropertyco.com, or text me 651-587-7197. Love to talk real estate. Even if you're not a buyer or seller, just want some advice or to kick an idea off me, love to talk about it.
Sweet. Awesome, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, guys.
So what's going on today, Tim?
Hey, man. I don't know about you. I don't have anything big going on right now in terms of my own personal investing. I'm still flipping that house in North Minneapolis, and that's moving along. I really had to push hard to get things to go fast, though. It's like, once a deal closes, a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I want to take my time now. And it's like, no, we talked about you starting last week, and now it's already this week. What's going on, right? So we pushed that, and it's moving along. Outside of that, as far as investing, not much going on, but just kind of thinking about landlord issues and things going on in the market. And I'm kind of curious. To me, I'm getting more interested in what's going to happen in our next election cycle between city councils and the governor's race and things like that. It's definitely on my mind.
Yeah. Well, elaborate on that. What's on your mind? What's going to happen?
Okay. So, this is, it's September 11th now, and there was just some articles that came out that there's been a at-home service program that was shut down by the state through fraud. I was talking about it with Tyler before we came. And so long story short, there's, I probably won't get every detail right, but if you need care at home, there's state programs that will help pay for it, right? And it's a housing program. It's not like a landlord specific thing, but it's the whole program has been shut down because there was so much incredible fraud. And so my thought process, we've got this on one level. We've got things like, St. Louis Park being really hard on landlords, and we've got some, rumblings of, rent control, and we found out that rent control isn't that bad, but anytime they make these changes, they make it harder. I'm just curious of how our political environment is in Minnesota, who's going to get elected, and how that's going to impact us, really,
Sure.
Yeah. It's nothing that I could even point to. There's not one thing where I'm like, oh, this is what I'm keyed in on. I'm just kind of curious of what the political climate is for landlords in Minnesota, I guess.
Yeah, I think, man, I don't know. I'm not really educated enough to talk on it. I feel like we will continue to go down this road of more tenant protections and less like landlords' rights issues. And it's silly. Here's the thing. It's silly to care about landlords if you're not one. Not that they shouldn't, but the kind of guy who really cares about his landlord is a weird dude. And so it doesn't surprise me. And I don't think it means that people are have bad intentions, or I think you get what I'm saying.
I do. Yeah. There's no reason like the average homeowner, like who's not a landlord, who's also not a tenant, would give a rat's, whatever about a landlord. So I get that. In the end, obviously we need good landlords. And so I look at things like, I think we need to continue to push out the stories to get good landlords. And that helps. That goes a long way. And the fact of the matter is you end up with, I think, the more regulation we get, the more bad landlords we get in general, because you have to be more cutthroat, in my opinion, to make it work when you don't have just regular, remedies, I guess you might say.
Well, a lot of it is just spin. It's just like people's opinions that are pushing them out. Like a good landlord who possibly could be investing in Minneapolis, but they hear all this talk about this new socialist mayor and they're not going to. Like the reality, as active self-managing landlords in St. Paul and Minneapolis, I've never really had a city regulation actually have like a direct annoying effect on my day.
Yeah.
Right. But I understand that it does. If it's out there in the ether, it affects the market. There's certainly, I'm sure, tons of landlords could write in and feel otherwise because actually the city did this. It was really annoying. This is just my personal experience that like I would never invest in St. Paul because of rent control. Like, well, I get, man, it's not really affecting me. Where rents are chugging along. Just personally, if I'm thinking selfishly only about Adam Tafel and my rent control doesn't have a negative effect.
So far, rent control has done the exact opposite for St. Paul than what they expected. The exact opposite.
We're just making more money.
Yep. So, for the record, so I can make it super clear, I'm still investing in Minnesota. It's the only place I plan on investing in long-term renting right now. Short-term rentals, that's a different story, right? Those are vacation properties. They'll be all over. But the long-term rentals, I'm only planning on Minnesota right now. So I'm just it's more just what's on my mind. This isn't worrying me in any real meaningful way. It's just, what am I thinking about right now? That's what I've been thinking about lately.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm still looking to buy another single family this year. I'm not going to talk any specifics. Tyler and I we were talking about this earlier, kind of cooking up this like kind of short-term play on a commercial deal, which is exciting. But yeah, I mean, the market's chugging along. Like, we're both fairly busy, right, in our professions as a lender and agent. I'm looking at my board right now. Got buyers who are hungry, but not. It's a comfortable time to enter the market, I think, as a newer investor, especially in the small multifamily space. Like, how many 1% deals are we selling this year? Almost every single 2 to 4 unit deal we're selling right now meets 1% threshold, unless it's some like real cream puff owner occupant deal.
Yeah, you've done a couple Crocus Hill things that they're not 1%ers, but like for the most part, you're right. There's been a lot of good stuff.
Well, no, the Crocus Hill, I've only done one multifamily Crocus Hill deal this year, which is a 1%er.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Because that purchase price was $480. Was it $480? Oh, so you'd have to get 24. No, they won't get 24. It's really damn close though. I'll probably get 22.
Yeah. And you don't need the higher price it is, the less important 1% is.
Yeah,
again, we've talked about this, right? But rules based on percentages work in a narrow band, right? That at the low levels they don't, right? Like if it's a $30,000 place, a 1% is meaningless. You're going to lose money probably. You probably need a 3%er.
Yeah. We have a deal right now that's worth $700, and we're renting it for $4,100, and it's chugging along just fine. So we didn't, we're not like leveraged on the 700, but yeah.
But in a high-end area, I mean, I did some deals at the 185 in Minneapolis at the right time period, and it worked, right? So it just depends on, it depends on the deal, right? And I think, when you start getting into those deals, those also assume normal interest rates and normal mortgages, and frankly, maybe you need a little bit more than 1% to justify for a lot of people. So even though there's 1% rules out there, some people just aren't justifying it, which I think is silly. I think they're going to regret it. I believe that people who are not active now will regret it in the future.
Completely agree. And we're all like, I keep going back to this guy I walked, a couple of days ago, I walked with this guy in his 70s, looked at his 29 units. And like, when he bought the places, he thought they were going to grow in value, and they sustained themselves, you know, and he's buying a 13-unit apartment building where he's pretty sure it's going to pay for itself, knowing that, you know, rents will go up and value will go up. So I wouldn't suggest any client of mine do that these days. Like, or you're going to buy a break even on a commercial deal, right? That doesn't sound very smart.
Well, you can't get financing for a break even on a commercial deal. They don't do it.
And he's doing, and this would be contract. Yeah, he was buying with contract for deed.
Oh, got it. Fair enough.
But anyhow, yeah. Well, thanks everybody for listening today. Thanks for Tyler for coming on the show. Thanks again to Network Title for sponsoring and Shook Rentals. Remember, you can go to the show notes and use our code for 20% discount, TCREI 20, when you go to shookrentals.com. These guys will do a live demo with you too. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe and review and share and all that stuff, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.
That's it for today's show. You can visit the TwinCitiesRealEstateInvesting.com website for show notes, tips, tricks, and other local real estate investing information. Adam and Tim would like to meet with you. To schedule a one-on-one meeting with either Adam or Tim, go to TwinCitiesRealEstateInvesting.com/schedule.